Hey guys, what's up? It's Karl. Welcome back to another episode, and today we're doing a full living room tour of my studio. You can kind of see it sneaking off behind me. So we've got a brand new setup, a brand new TV for 2021, and of course all the accessories that will kind of go with it. And I will say it's a bit on the higher end, especially the TV that we're about to check out, but I try to keep some of the accessories in the budget zone, and hopefully you can take a few ideas from this and kind of implement it into your own setup. So to kind of begin with, the overall space that we got here, it's in the rear section of my studio. Sometimes my desk setup lives here and sometimes it becomes my TV room. The style here is pretty retro loft, so I try to incorporate that into the entire setup. So we've got the exposed wood, the 14-foot ceilings, and a lot of the furniture that you see kind of mimics that and tries to play into that. So it's all from a company called Rove Concepts. They've provided all the stuff for this episode. The TV stand, coffee table, as well as the small side tables, once again, all in that white minimal theme with some of the exposed natural wood. So I think it kind of ties in the area together perfectly. And I guess the first thing to talk about in any sort of setup, wherever you are, and I guess if this is your living room, the main piece that you want to focus on is the TV. So it's a brand new one to this year. It's the 77C1. It's an OLED from, of course, LG. There are a few new features though that make this a bit distinct, and we'll kind of go through them. Of course, the size being one of them. So 77 inches, I believe that is the second largest model. They also have an 82 incher, but for this setup, it fits exactly the size of this TV stand. I think I've got it around an inch on each side, and if I did decide to say wall mount it, I'd probably go for the larger one. My general rule of thumb, if I have empty space on the wall and the budget allows it, that's probably the limiting factor. Going larger is never a bad thing. Let's start off chatting first about the design first, I guess. And if you've seen LG's OLEDs, I mentioned this before for the past couple of years, the design language really hasn't changed. So you have a very similar stand. It's front facing, it's clean, it's minimal, it's made out of metal, it feels nice and sturdy, it isn't anything cheap and plasticky. My only takeaway is if you do decide to pair this TV with, say, a soundbar, it might get in the way depending on where you put it. This being an OLED, you have the benefit of it being virtually bezel-less. That's one of the big design changes, or I guess upgrades you notice switching from traditional LED over to OLED. Of course, on the back, pretty much razor thin. At its thinnest part, it's around 2.5 centimeters, but you'll notice most of the internals are crammed into the bottom third of the TV. So even if you do wall mount it, it won't be exactly flush. You'll still have a bit of a gap. And my personal preference is having a TV that's, say, 3.5, 4 centimeters wide across the entire TV, and it sitting completely flush against the wall. Once again, personal preference. The stand is super heavy, so when you do set this up, kind of do take note. I think it's around 45 to 50 pounds to kind of compensate for the overall weight of the TV. It has 3 HDMI 2.1 ports, and you'll know if you have a next-gen console, which we'll kind of chat about later. Those are super important as you can get all the way up to 4K at 120. And I will say, this is probably the best gaming TV that you can currently get if you're on a console. There's a gamer optimized mode, less than a 10 mil response time. It actually supports both G-Sync and FreeSync, and I think that's the only TV currently out that supports both. In the game optimizer mode, you can set black and shadow levels. Super useful for games like Call of Duty Warzone. I know they've made it better in some of the more recent updates, but I find it's just too dark. Any of you guys that play know the rose skin is just the bane of anyone's existence. It makes it a bit easier to see. There's even different game genre presets depending on which game you end up playing, and like most of you know, I'm a pretty big Xbox fanboy to heart. I know a lot of you do still prefer the PlayStation life, so if you guys have a favorite game that I still haven't checked out, let me know down below, and you will be pretty sad to know I do rock my PS5 to play Ape Escape. One of my favorite childhood memories. I am not getting the most out of my PlayStation. Gaming aside, the rest of the experience with the TV has pretty much been flawless. I really can't find too many nitpicky things to say. You are paying for that OLED name, and you do get that OLED performance. So black levels are deep and crisp. Colors are super rich, and pretty much any content that you watch on the C1 looks great all around. Of course, you'll get the best benefits if you're watching Blu-ray HDR 4K content, but if you're just, say, on normal Netflix, watch our planet. It's mastered, it's in Dolby Atmos and of course Dolby Vision. It's pretty breathtaking if any of you haven't checked it out already, and of course the bonus, or I guess maybe the best benefit, you are soothed by the voice of David Attenborough.
The living world is a unique and spectacular marvel.
One area that they've made improvements on, which I didn't think was possible because the LG remote, in my opinion, is the best across the industry. They've added some tactile feedback to the scroll wheel, so that's beneficial if you're eating anything greasy, but we were watching the Leafs game the other night. RIP to them, they're out of the playoffs classic. I now have chicken wing sauce in these grooves, so kind of annoying. At least you still have all of the streaming app shortcuts, and they've actually refined the clicker as you use it as a wand on the screen, so it's just easier to select what you want. LG's WebOS is one of the most robust across any TV line. You do get the occasional ad thrown at you or suggested content every once in a while. It isn't really a deal breaker, I would say. There is, though, a pretty cool addition in that of sports mode, so you can actually track your favorite teams, even though the Leafs are now in golf season. But any of you soccer fans, I know the Euro 2020, now 2021 is upcoming. They've also got their home dashboard, so if you have any other smart home accessories, I've got a couple lights set up here in the studio. I can kind of manage them through here, so that's super handy. But yeah, that's been the C1 OLED, and as of right now, it's probably one of the best TVs that you can currently get for the price, and of course that picture quality that you're getting. It's an OLED, and for gaming, it's probably the best in class. Sound quality, I really try to keep this without a soundbar because I know a lot of people do that. It's got a really cool benefit of having that metal scoop at the front that actually bounces sound from the downward facing speakers upwards towards you to kind of replicate or simulate surround sound, and I've actually brought my SN11 soundbar from home to pair it with it. Of course, the sound quality is better, but if you choose not to get a soundbar, if you want to save some money, I think rocking the TV without one, still totally usable and one of the better experiences that you'll get without a soundbar on a TV. For the rest of the setup, I mentioned super minimal, so I do have the two next-gen consoles, the Xbox Series X, which actually fits perfectly into this little side table. I think it's actually within a centimeter. It hasn't overheated as of yet, but I will keep you guys updated with all of that venting on the top. I'm also using the next-gen Apple TV Plus that just dropped at Apple's spring-loaded event, so it does have an updated remote, thankfully, compared to the last gen, some big improvements. You've got a dedicated Siri button on the side, but I use it because I think Siri still sucks, but it is an option for you. Over on my coffee table, that's usually where my controllers live, and I think as of now, there are still no new Xbox controllers. I kind of got this weird fetish of collecting them. You can see some of them hanging out over on my little stands on this wall. The wall shelves, though, are actually from Grovemade, and once again tie into the entire Scandinavian minimal theme of having all of the exposed wood. And the last thing which I kind of see off to the side is my current car, which I've kind of got immortalized as a poster right behind me. But anyways, that's kind of be my setup for a couch option. Honestly, I think this is pretty dependent on you. I've got an IKEA couch behind here. In the end, you don't really need anything fancy, and I would spend more money on a better TV than having a better couch personally. So that has been my living room setup here in my studio loft. Curious to hear your guys' thoughts on any improvements you guys think I should make. And I think the really big question is an OLED TV worth it from, say, a traditional LED or I guess cheaper LCD TV? If you have the extra money and spend a lot of time behind the TV, upgrading to an OLED is definitely worth it in my opinion. I know they're on the pricier end, but the content just looks so much better. So hopefully I convinced some of you, and if I did, RAP to your wallet. Hope you guys enjoyed this episode, and I'll catch the rest of you in one of my next ones. Peace!